Okay, so here goes Ray's refining methods. Good luck on this one. So, we have 228 grains of placer gold. That was all my plus 100 gold from the 4 ounces that I had. And then I just melted down a button. If you kind of look right there in the middle of it, it was a very impure button, and I crunched it up. But I added that, and then plus the gold I got from Anchorage, and it kicked it up to 243 grains. So now I divided that 243 grains by 15.4, which is a gram, and it comes out that there is 15.77 grams in this total. So the next phase is going to be to try to pull any leads or impurities out of this with nitric acid. And I'm going to use about 10 milliliters of water and 3 milliliters of nitric acid. Good, fresh, clean nitric acid. Okay, now there is the gold in the bottom of the darn beaker, and I filled it up to the 10 milliliter mark with distilled water. Now to add 3 milliliters of nitric acid slowly out of a syringe. So I should note on this video, now that this gold is boiling, well, it's not boiling, let me take it back. Now that the gold is in solution, I added some, a little pipette, there's like 4 drops of battery acid. It's not really bubbling or boiling or anything. It is getting warm. Not doing much. Okay, so everything I've read on the watched on the computer, I shouldn't say read, watched on the computer. Now this is strictly a nitric acid and sulfuric acid and distilled water bath. And I do have a reaction. It's also heated. Now my gold is at the bottom of this. And what this is supposed to do is actually clean the gold from any of the leads and miscellaneous silvers, platinums, iron oxide. I do not know that for a fact, but that's what's gonna. Oh, hell, there's a tag. I should have took that off there. Sorry about that. But so I've got distilled water. I did have to add a little bit more distilled water to it, but it's still just the 3 milliliters of nitric acid and just a few drops of sulfuric acid. So there is gold down in there. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to let it burn down, and then I'll drain this water off and go ahead and start pulling it into Aqua Regia. Hope I count them right. I should be wearing gloves. Oh well. Lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner, I use lacquer thinner every day, so. Okay, now I boiled down all my gold. That was at 243 grains. And then I went ahead and boiled it down in distilled water and nitric acid to remove the lead and some of the other impurities into it. I've since dried it out. Now I'm at 233 grains. So now I'm going to go ahead and start dealing with pulling it into royal water. Now I've got my muriatic acid, but this is muriatic acid, so it's not pure hydrochloric acid like this. So hydrochloric acid, we're looking at 31% instead of 60% purity. And the rest of it is obviously just distilled water. So instead of a 4-to-1 mixture, I'm looking at, I pull it into grams, so it's 15.61 grams times 8, so I'm going to have 121 milliliters of the muriatic acid instead of, if it had been 4, it would have been a lot less than that, because it would be a higher concentration. So that's the next step, and then once it gets warm, then I'm going to add the 4-to-1. It'll be just another 15. It'll be the 15 milliliters of the nitric acid, which is a 68% purity. So we're going to boil some gold, get it pulled down into royal water. Okay, this is my gold, what it looks like after I've melted it down in aqua regia. It doesn't seem to be reacting at all. Last night's reaction happened fairly quickly, probably 45 minutes, maybe less. So now I'm going to go ahead and run it through a coffee filter once or twice and wash it down, and then I'll try to get ready to take the sodium metabisulfate to it. Okay, so it's sodium metabisulfate time. I've roughly measured out the exact same weight of the gold, 233.5 grains of sodium metabisulfate, and that's how much gold I had. I've filtered this twice now. I'm adding it slowly because it wants to react pretty hard if I added a lot of it really quick. And then I'm going to give it a few minutes to just see if it'll settle out. Unfortunately, I do not have a stannate chloride test strip, so I'm just going to have to hope it's there. It's not very scientific, but then again, neither is gold prospecting. Yeah, we're going to let it settle. See what happens. Well, it's been, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. First the cloud was all the way up. It was all cloudy like I've seen in the last little skit there. And I added the weight of the gold, the same weight in sodium metabisulfate, clouded up. And just I've been stirring it every now and then, and slowly but surely everything is falling right to the bottom as it should. So the next step will be to go ahead and run it through a filter very carefully, and then after I run it through a filter, I'll put it in a crucible and melt it down and see what kind of gold I get out of it. Obviously, I'll be using I'll probably end up using Chapman flux rather than borax. I've got way more Chapman flux than I got borax, so it should work, hypothetically. Okay, and there's my gold mud. Next comes the crucible. Okay, there's the paper towel with the gold bearing in it in the little crucible. Now to put liberal amounts of Chapman flux on top of it so it don't burn out, and put it in the fire. Now look at here. Made the pour, and That's my slag.
After
And
the
my
Dallas
button.
mess.
Well, that's some pretty
I was
gold.
right about that.
I'm going to go ahead and chip it down and get the stuff off of it and see what it looks like.
Who the hell you think was going to win? But that's not going to happen here. I'm talking about a team of poor nobodies who play to win. Not a bunch of bitches.
Well, I don't know if I got it before, but now it's time to start shaving it down. So I get ready to make this into a birthday present from my buddy Oz. Obviously, I'm saving all the shavings off of it. But I'll cut it down and then polish it and stamp Oz on one side and engrave 50 years on the other. So the total on it ended up being 158.5 grains from 233 grains of gold. So that was my meltdown procedure from figuring it's about 70% loss like I've seen before. I always end up with this powder here. I've looked under it at a loop and everything. It mainly looks like lead. I tried a silver testing, and it shows negative for silver. So it's probably lead and iron, I imagine. But either that or it's the sodium metabisulfate. I don't know. Here's one of the tests that went kind of bad. This one here, this was a combination of a whole bunch of real nasty stuff. There's definitely rocks and everything else. So I still got a lot to learn. Well, we'll get it figured out.